Hey everyone, George the Disney Italiano here, coming to you over at Disney California Adventure for our part 2 of the Walk and Talk during the 70th anniversary celebration weekend kickoff with my boys OG
What's up?
and theme park conductor.
What's up?
And yeah, we're continuing on the conversation that we were having over at Disneyland Park about what it means to possibly change the name of DCA, as theme park conductor had mentioned about its 25th anniversary coming up next year, and just the overall theme of like what direction Disney's going with this park. But OG came up with a great point that we completely forgot about, this plaque here in the center of the hub right before you enter onto Buena Vista Street. And this may be a little key as a clue to how they can fit in Pandora without actually changing California to the name of the park.
Right. So this is the rededication plaque from 2012, and it says here, Disney California Adventure, to all who come to this place of dreams, welcome. Disney California Adventure celebrates the spirit of optimism and the promise of endless opportunities ignited by the imaginations of daring dreamers such as Walt Disney and those like him who forever changed and were forever changed by the Golden State. This unique place embraces the richness and diversity of California, its land, its people, its stories, and above all, its dreamers it continues to inspire. So the plaque is heavily leaning towards the people of California, the innovators, the dreamers, the Walt Disneys, the Steve Jobs, the James Cameron,
Hint, hint, wink, wink.
right, the Stan Lees, people who came to the Golden State, made an impact here in California and around the world. But I mean, look, we talk a lot about here on Orange Grove 55 on my channel, as well as here on Citric Coast Central, Georgia's channel, where and even yours, conductor. We talk a lot about on conductor theme park conductor's channel, where how is Avatar going to fit into this California park? Well, this plaque kind of gives you a hint. It's not just about the state; it's about the dreamers of the state. Now, here's the thing: does the average person know? Are they going to put that connection together? Probably not. I mean, we're diehard nerds and we're barely noticing it now, right?
Exactly.
So I don't really know, but I mean, honestly, if we're going to go from a technical standpoint, technically, I mean, anyone that really, you know, made an impact on the state in some way, I'm pretty sure James Cameron, he's a Hollywood guy, right? I mean, we know that.
Yeah.
So he technically would have a big impact on California. He would fall under this category of
He
a
would.
Walt Disney, of a Stan Lee.
And it's, as it says, the spirit of optimism, the endless opportunities, ignited by the imaginations and the daring dreamers. Like James Cameron fits the bill for all that.
Exactly. So technically, I mean, if we're really gonna like dive into the technicality of this theme and break it down, I mean, honestly, Avatar would fit based on that criteria. So again, it's up. I mean, look, like I said, I mean, the normies aren't going to pick up on that, but if we're going to be technical, yeah, I mean, it kind of fits.
Yeah.
I mean,
And there's so many ways that you can kind of chop it up and dice it of how you can look at it, because if people were to come back and say to Disney, oh, well, and honestly, we're guilty of that too. We questioned it.
right.
But as of today, as of right now, if people say, well, how is Avatar going to fit into this park? Well, just go and look at the dedication plaque out in the front of the park.
Yeah.
It says it all.
I mean, it really does, and that also not just for Avatar, but even Marvel, Avengers Campus, anything Marvel. Technically, based on that plaque, I mean, Stan Lee is a legend, and he's very connected to Hollywood, and the MCU, all that. I mean, so I mean, technically, Marvel fits under that plaque as well.
Yeah.
So I think that it's very, very interesting. Let's cut through here because we got Five and Dime, which we love Five and Dime, but we don't want to get a copyright for George today. So we're gonna kind of see if we can minimize that as much as we can. And here's the man himself with the mouse himself, Walt and Mickey. All right, so let's go ahead and go through Hollywoodland. Conductor, you wanted to kind of walk through here and kind of discuss some stuff. Go ahead and break it down, brother.
Yeah, as we're walking down the Hollywood Boulevard here in DCA, one of the things that I asked is with that plaque that OG just read, it was, there's a lot of potential to change this park around, make it more magical than what it is. Because we've all known it for quite some time that DCA is kind of like the wicked stepsister of Disney parks. So it needs a little bit more. It's lackluster a little bit. It needs a little pick me up. So as we're walking down here, a question I have is, what are they going to do with this area? Because DCA is losing its California aspect from when it was first built in 2001 to now. And like we mentioned earlier in part one, at Disneyland, DCA is turning 25 next year. So, and with all the expansion happening with the Avengers Campus, a Coco Dark ride, and then obviously they're going to be looking at expanding with Pandora, a whole land, and then just other areas that they've already zoned out with the Anaheim Disneyland Forward project. Um, it begs the question, what are they going to do here? And a lot of people have discussed, even all three of us, George, Orange Grove 55, myself, is that what are they going to do with the Hollywood Studios backlot? Because a lot of people have talked about, Pandora going in there. And the problem I have with that is, even with the bus load area behind what they've already, that bus area that comes from Toy Story, and it's already been slated for theme park expansion as well. I just don't think it's big enough for an Avatar land, because we all know James Cameron's work. His whole characteristic with Avatar is just stunning, like absolutely stunning. So whatever Disney decides to do land wise with Avatar, it's got to be above excellent.
Yeah, no, 100% conductor. And here's the thing too, is like it's really hard to conceptualize in our brain. Like, how is that the concept art that we saw that they gave us, right? How is that onion thing, the onion rock work as they call it? How can you see that here?
I'm trying to.
It's hard to imagine.
I
And that
am
big
because
show building for
I'm
the boat.
I'm trying to see the piece of concept art and like what direction it would start in. Would the rock work be this way? Would the rock work be further back? And honestly, I do agree with you, conductor. I do think it's not enough room. That's why I personally think this building right here, the Hyperion, I think is honestly on its last leg. This is a massive building, and it is like has an abundance of footwork. You remove this on top of the queuing area that gets people into the theater, and then plus the backstage area for this. You tie that into already what's going to be in the back lot, the expansion of the bus load unload area, and they may even take a little piece of this because they still have the red car trolley tracks, which they're not utilizing. So why would you then keep the tracks?
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
no,
I am very curious to know like what direction they're gonna go. Like when
well,
you look at the piece of concept art, is it aiming that way? Is it aiming this way? Like
that's the thing. So this building, right, the Hyperion is a massive structure, and like George said, it has a huge footprint. If they bulldoze this bad boy, and then we go over here to this back area, the Hollywood Studios area. There's a lot of room back here, but it's just I don't know, man. It's just kind of hard for me to wrap my head around because the concept art is so grand and so massive. Now, I think George and I we've done a Google what's the word for it? A Google aerial acreage thing,
right?
whatever they call that.
Yes.
And it was there was definitely enough acreage, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
technically, because the Pandora in Animal Kingdom was how many acres? I think it was like 8 or 9.
8 or 9, and then with the backstage area, you're looking at like 10, 11.
Yeah, and I think technically there's enough room back here. But the issue with it here, even if you have the acreage, it's working it into the park. That's always been the biggest issue.
Yeah.
How do you? Yeah, maybe technically you have the 9 acres you need or whatever it is. but how do you work it into the existing park? What do you do?
Well,
Like,
and then you're also going to have to add kind of a big body of water
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
for the e-ticket, because from what the concept looked like, the boat ride is going to be indoors and outdoors.
So
So
it's hard to put my head around it, man. And it's possible. Like we talked about it. This is definitely an area that we think is slated for Pandora. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not poo-pooing this area. I do think that they're looking at this, but it's just
it's
hard to
just hard to
imagine.
see it.
Yeah, but y'all, we also
But
have to
we're
remember.
looking at it how it is now.
Correct. And these buildings, like Stage 17 and this old Muppet building, Muppet Vision building, these are massive structures. You bulldoze all these in the Hyperion, you have a lot of room back.
And then you also have
Hollywood and Dine.
You have Hollywood and Dine. You have Soundstage 12 back there.
And Monsters.
And you have Monsters.
And,
So
and that's not even
remove all that.
including the acres behind Monsters with the busload area.
Right.
There's a lot of room, but it's hard to visualize it in your head because there's all this crap right here now.
Exactly.
But who knows? I don't know. I mean, we'll see how that whole thing kind of shakes out. You know, so we'll see.
And then we also have the monorail, which is going to be, intertwined with that construction. But I'm assuming like they could make like a tunnel for the monorail, but it would utilize like rock work. I don't know how they would incorporate that.
Definitely.
Especially because it wasn't part of the initial concept.
No, it wasn't part of the initial concept. It would be very interesting how they do it, because we were standing by the river boat extinct attraction earlier at Disneyland, and we had the monorail pass right by us, and as much of it is state of the art, it's pretty loud. And the last thing you want in the Avatar land is hearing a monorail go through the land.
Right.
So even
Cameron would not approve of that.
No. So I don't know if they have a plan if they do put it in that back lot, because I agree with you guys. It's a great spot to put it. It's not where I would put it, because you have to demo so many things to make it, a blank canvas. That's why I'm thinking, because Simba Lot was, it's already slated for theme park use. I think the Simba Lot would be perfect because you have a blank canvas and you could go vertical. So
Yeah. Now, before we end up leaving this area, what are your thoughts on actually like this? Like, do you utilize any of this? Where would you cut it off? Would they utilize the animation building? Would they use Mickey's PhilharMagic, Schmoozies, award wieners?
See, that's a good one. Well, see, the problem I see is, like I was talking about earlier, your DCA has slowly been losing its California theming with IP based from Disney. So I think if you want to make DCA more like Disneyland, but not exactly like Disneyland, but more like Disneyland with more attractions, more shows, I think a lot of these buildings that are just facades, I think at some point they're going to have to really consider maybe demoing this, because like OG said, how do you tie in Avatar with the Hollywood the Hollywood strip, as I call it, walking down Main Street Hollywood? How you justify that? Yeah, it's a Hollywood picture, but does it really fit? Right. It doesn't.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough. So I mean, and like we said right on at the gate with this whole conversation today, technically, from the plaque, yeah, technically it probably fits because James Cameron and it's California and he's a Hollywood guy. Based on the plaque, it technically fits. But the problem with that is, yeah, technically it fits, but you need to have your theme and your through line digestible for the average person who walks in the gate. Exactly. And the average person that walks into those gates are not going to understand the whole like dreamers from the Golden State thing. They're not going. They're that. I mean, like I said, technically yes, it fits, but the average person isn't going to pick that up. We barely picked it up, and we do this every single day. This is all we do. You know what I'm saying? We talk shop about Disney, and we barely remember what was on that plaque. Yeah. You think the soccer mom is going to know?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way. So they got to figure something out. Yeah. Cinematic adventure is probably the best way to go about it. And then you can do whatever you want. Then you can put Moana in here. You can do a Moana land. You could put Wakanda.
Yeah.
You could put.
And Wakanda was mentioned several times by Josh on many occasions, even though they haven't really officially confirmed it. But it definitely seems like Wakanda is, you know, in the process of talks. Now, really quick, I wanted to ask you while they are passing by, there goes Five and Dime. Now, where they take the car is interesting because, again, if that also becomes Pandora, how are you then going to use that uh, as like a traveling? Do they just get rid of Five and Dime? Do they relocate them? Do they
Right.
bring them out in a different way?
I
Like,
mean, they probably don't. I mean, they might just replace them.
yeah,
Or maybe they'll just have them be like, instead of coming out in the car, they'll just have them come out on that stage and they'll right in front of Carthay.
just walk out.
They just
yeah,
walk out.
Yeah.
And that's probably my best guess is they just walk out and post up.
Yes.
Because the car isn't necessarily needed, although it's kind of cool and a nice little added thing. But you can technically just have them posted in front of Carthay and you'll be fine. So.
Right. And really quick before we continue, I just have to show the Red Guardian for Marvel's Thunderbolts, which is in theaters now.
Yeah, it's dope.
And there's been talks that the movie is like getting back to Marvel's roots with the films. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of getting back into like, I mean, OG, you had mentioned Wakanda. As I said, I think honestly, in time, Wakanda could come to DCA. It would be a good connection to the campus, even though it may not actually interconnect, but just as its own land itself.
Yeah. Well, and if it's cinematic adventure, you could do that, and even more so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then speaking of which, when it comes to the expansion of Avengers Campus, we have, now it looks like nothing now, folks, but in time, this is going to be the entranceway to beyond this wall that you're looking in front of right now for Infinity Defense, and then beyond that, just off of the entranceway into Cars Land in the back is going to be Stark Flight Lab. We've been talking for some time now, like, is the Doctor Strange Sanctum, is that going to be extra queue space for Stark Flight Lab? Or Infinity Defense, is that going to be maybe part of where they're going to add the new bathroom, why they have that blocked off? But OG was asking, is it kind of peculiar that they're putting in a new bathroom that's really like not that far off from like the restrooms
right there, right behind
Yeah.
the red kiosk? You're really not dealing with a whole lot of
Yeah.
distance. I mean, so it feels a little redundant to me.
It does. And one of the things we were talking about earlier at Disneyland, walking around the rivers of America, was that DCA, especially Avengers Campus, has minimized entertainment, like the Doctor Strange show that George just showed. That's been offline for quite some time now. A lot of the shows, like from the Wakanda movies, they had the little show out here on the steps. They also had the show on the actual Avengers Campus building, and that's kind of limited. So, it's kind of strange for me to look at, the Doctor Strange area, because it's not just like something they just threw a stage up overnight. They actually built it, infrastructure into this land. And now it's like, why do we need to have two bathrooms 50 yards from each other to sit there and sacrifice a show off a Marvel character that a lot of people love?
Right. No, exactly. And look at this bathroom over here, behind this red kiosk. Look at this bathroom here. If you, like I said in a previous walk and talk the other day,
Yes.
if you bulldoze that restroom, right behind there is Hollywoodland.
Yes.
So if you build Pandora on the other side, you have a gateway now from this land into Pandora. Or if you want to expand Marvel into Hollywoodland, you now have that gateway.
Exactly.
So I think that's
there's a purpose for everything, even if it may seem not as significant at the time.
Right.
They all have their own individual plans of how they're going to interconnect.
Right, and you can't get rid of a bathroom until you build a new one to replace it. It's kind of like the parking structure situation. You know what I'm saying? We're going to take away the symbol lot, you need a new parking structure, right? That's why we've all been talking about how the what's it called? You need to do the Eastern Gateway before you can expand on the symbol lot. Well, same thing with these restrooms. You probably have to build another bathroom before you can bulldoze the old one.
Exactly.
So I think that's a huge part of this whole equation. And again, it's my speculation, but I mean, I think it's a solid one. I just find it kind of weird they're building them so close together. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And I just have to just make a little mental note here. We've been mentioning all weekend that DCA has been dead. Not no more. Starting like today, as of Sunday, which is ending the weekend, seems like DCA is kind of back up to its normal daily operations with the guest flow. But as we had mentioned in part one, it is the start of grad night, so that also plays a major contributing factor to it as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's busy. You know,
Yeah.
it's busy. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm very curious. This park, there's a lot of majority of the expansion news we got at D23 was for DCA, which is awesome.
I feel like in the future, just like how it's going to look different of how we enter the Disneyland Resort, I feel like in time DCA is going to have like a different recognizable footprint, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No,
It's not going to look the way we're seeing it now.
Of course, because I mean, we got almost all the announcements were for DCA, and so that's great. I welcome that, but we still don't know how those pieces are going to fit into this puzzle.
Yeah.
So
And even with Coco, I mean, even if it's just the attraction itself, which we all agree they should have added a little Mexican village tied to that. Total missed opportunity.
right.
Hopefully Disney will consider doing that sooner, than later, while the attraction is still in the process of being built wherever it's going. But yeah, I mean, it's still an unknown fact of like where it's going. Is it going behind the pier? Is it going behind the pier? Is it going on the Paradise Gardens area? Is it going to go on in the Simba lot? But it's like, I mean, I seriously doubt that because there's not enough time for that, I think, to put in the Simba lot. But it still begs the question because we don't know.
Yeah, we don't. We don't have any idea, and hopefully we get more answers. July 17th, in front of the Lincoln Theater, where Walt will be. They're going to have a little preview center for the future of the Disneyland Resort. So maybe we'll have a big model or something where we can kind of get an idea as to where this stuff is going to go. I mean, I really hope so. We need it.
Exactly. Yes, we do need it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Conductor, I'll pass it over to you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So tying off what OG was saying about the 70 or about the Walt animatronic show debuting at the Lincoln Theater on Main Street, USA at Disneyland on July the 17th. I'm going to add to that because I think what would be perfect alongside with that preview center inside would absolutely be that Josh Tomorrow comes out, maybe Bob Iger comes out. They both come out and say, you know what, we have something special in the preview center for everybody. We're showing actual footage of dirt moving because that's been kind of like the running joke for Disney for a while now. Is we're putting shovels in the ground, and then you look where. So I think that would be great.
They didn't even make a stop at Home Depot yet.
I know Home Depot's like, where you at, Daddy Josh? I need a purchase here. But going towards Coco, like me and George and OG have been talking about on their channels for quite some time now. Looking at it, I love the fact that we're going to get a Coco dark ride. The fact that they want to put it on Paradise Pier behind the Esplanade. I don't know. I kind of feel the kind of tie in the Southern California residents. I think it would be better if in the Hollywood backlot they built a whole Coco land, because then if you have the monorail running through, it won't be that bad to kind of tie that in. It would be easier to do that than trying to do Pandora. But then again, the monorail is supposed to be what the future is, and Pandora is the future. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I've been advocating for a like a Mexican village, for a long time. I think this Coco boat ride that was promised us at D23, Josh Giamaro came out and said this is a very innovative boat ride, on par with the likes of like a Pirates of the Caribbean. And I just feel like if you're gonna have an amazing boat ride like that, how do you shove that into Pixar Pier?
Exactly.
How do you shove that into Pixar Pier, right? You're gonna want that Mexican village, that great lead up into that great boat ride. The lead up is important, you know. Like I think New Orleans Square plays a big part into the Pirates of the Caribbean experience. Would Pirates of the Caribbean be as impressive of an experience if you shoehorned it behind the Incredicoaster? I mean, yeah, it's the same ride, right? But I mean, that lead up to the attraction would be different, and it would alter your perception of the attraction itself. So, for me personally, I think that's very important. So, yeah, I agree with the conductor where you're going to have a little Mexican village to kind of set that story for you as you move into this attraction and that queue. Pixar Pier ain't it.
And especially too, based off of how immersive this ride has been told that it's going to be for us, on the par with Pirates and Haunted Mansion and what have you. The pier is a pier that's decorated in Pixar. When you take Toy Story Mania, for example, you have a carnival style ride that's based off of the Toy Story characters.
Right.
So you're taking that IP and you're putting it around a theme of a carnival pier amusement park. The
Right.
Coco Dark ride is not set to be like a carnival style ride.
No.
It's supposed to be an immersive dark family boat ride that is probably going to take you through the story of the movie with what Josh is saying, high end quality audio animatronics.
Right.
So, I mean, that's putting it pretty high on a pedestal, and then to throw it behind the pier, like it's just like, okay, Leah, let's just squeeze it in here just because, to fill every nook and cranny. I don't think that's going to do the attraction justice.
I don't either. And Latin culture, Mexican culture, is a big part of the state of California. It's part of the fabric of our state, and I think that you need a better representation of that culture in this park. Now, again, it might not stay California, as we've been saying this whole video. Who knows? But, you know, we'll see. But at the end of the day, though, regardless, I still think that Mexican culture is beautiful, and I would love to see it better represented here in the park, whether it keeps a California theme or not. So we'll have to wait and see how that gets handled. But unfortunately, we're not getting any answers.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not. It's
I mean, D23 was almost a year ago.
and hopefully we get some answers by July 17th. As we mentioned, it may get said, for the preview center that's being added to the Opera House, or Destination D23 at the end of August into September. If it doesn't get mentioned then, unfortunately, we're probably not going to hear anything until D23 2026, or at least close to it.
Well, for Pandora?
Yeah.
Yeah, for Pandora, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's cut it right because we do have our dining package reservations.
Yes,
so.
we do. Also, I just want to mention something to go back to what Conductor had mentioned about like the preview center, that if Josh or Bob Iger would come out to make that announcement, do you think they would actually do it on Disneyland's birthday before they like kick everything off, or do you think they'll maybe do like a private kind of like media thing a day or two before?
They might do like that day or two before thing, and then debut like the model or the art on the 17th. That's kind of where I stand. But what do you think, Conductor?
So here's what I think. I think that would be a perfect opportunity. Another perfect opportunity would be, and I know it's more waiting time, and we us theme park nerds don't like to wait too much, but maybe they might wait until the 25th anniversary of DCA and set up shop somewhere, maybe in the Hollywood backlot area in one of those empty sound stages, and have a media event there and then the day after that, have the public come in and see the whole thing, kind of like what they did with the tribute store at Universal Orlando City Walk with Epic Universe, where you got to see the full scale model of what Epic Universe is going to offer. What do you think, George?
That would be a great idea. And honestly, that's what I miss about the Blue Sky Cellar that they used to have over here when they were in the process of doing DCA 2.0, when they would showcase Buena Vista Street and Cars Land and all the new stuff that was getting added with World of Color and revamping a lot of the DCA 1.0 and reskinning it to the 2.0. Um, I like that kind of stuff. I love preview centers. I love like a sneak peek behind the scenes kind of walkthrough where it shows us like concept art pieces, models. I'm all for that. So
Yeah.
if they were to do something like that, like how they used to do out here with the Blue Sky Cellar, and also what you were mentioning about with Epic Universe at the Universal Preview Center, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think they need to bring that aspect back. At least bring it back to DCA, because that seems like where most of Disneyland Forward projects are going. Obviously, Disneyland's going to have some, but DCA is. It looks like it's going to be the main focus of Disneyland Forward. And if they're not going to do anything with those sound stages and the Hollywood backlot besides use it as storage, you know, Hey Bricky did a video probably a week or two ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, how Disney has been renting a offsite location, a warehouse, a massive warehouse, and just recently they decided not to rent that anymore and just buy out the whole facility. So it would be smart if they brought that preview center back to one of those buildings that's just being used for storage. So I think that would be a great way. Now, going back to the Lincoln Theater with the Walt Animatronics show debuting on the 17th, I think also they could announce, because like I said, there's projects for Disneyland that's going to be part of Disneyland Forward. They could announce something for Disneyland and maybe not
Yeah.
DCA, and leave the DCA stuff until the 25th anniversary of DCA
They
next
very
year.
well could be. I mean, a lot of people are, saying that, the expansion pad that would be used for a Disneyland expansion, that it wouldn't be used for the park itself, for like park development. It could be used for something else. But even though technically Disneyland is safe at this point, I think it could hold its own. They're still going to want to have future development land, and they're not going to waste it on something else that they don't need.
Exactly.
That they will use it for future theme park expansion for Disneyland Park, and literally it would connect right off of Bayou Country.
Definitely, definitely, and the same thing. And it's not really expansion, but because I know a lot of people that go into Toontown, because it's been talked about before, even on Orange Grove 55's channel, was that if you go into Toontown and you go in the very far corner, there's like a gate or a wall there that they can blow out and make that a walking path, like George likes to call it.
Yes.
Make it a walking path and connect Toontown to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, so people that want to go to Star Wars that's in Toontown, they can walk straight through. OG, what do you think about that?
I think it's I think it's a definite possibility. Well, the Galaxy's Edge and Toontown thing, they've been wanting to do that for a while.
Yeah,
And I think that would be a smart move, because I think that you need to sort of because that would create a situation where it's not Toontown's no longer a dead end.
no.
And that's been a problem for, I think, for that land for a while. And I'm surprised they didn't do it before, to be honest with you. I really am. But, we'll kind of see how that shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gents, I think it's that time we end this little walk and talk. It's been another great conversation, this time walking around DCA. A lot to behold with the future of the Disneyland Resort as a whole, with both theme parks, its hotels, the Downtown Disney District, the Eastern Gateway Project, the everything, the parking lots, the parking structures, all that good jazz. So, so we will end it here. And as I always say in Disney Italiano style, stay safe, stay healthy, stay Disney. Italiano out.